Yeah, we've seen how jammed up those highways are. I know a lot of the tolls have been suspended to help facilitate people getting out of there. What would you say to people tonight who are saying, you know what, I'm going to ride this out, I've ridden others out? What would you say to people who aren't heeding those evacuation orders?
Well, I can tell you right now that they may have done that in others. There's never been one like this. And this, Helene was a wake-up call. This is literally catastrophic. And I can say without any dramatization whatsoever, if you choose to stay in one of those evacuation areas, you're going to die.
What's going on is Anton from antondaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. This upcoming hurricane is no joke. If you thought that Helene was deadly and they're still trying to figure out how to dig out from that and how to have access to certain roads and what is the real death toll and is it different from what they reporting on the news, you really need to take into consideration Milton. Hurricane Milton is coming directly for Tampa. I am trying to convince my people to go to shelter instead of hunkering down. The hospital in which they had the barrier that prevented over 4 feet of water from coming into the hospital and affecting it, it was a phenomenal system. But at the same time, they're saying that this could be over 15 feet. Now, I don't know what it's going to turn into. They're saying that it could land on shore as a Category 3 or a Category 4. Some people are even predicting that it's a possibility that could be a Category 5 and that it's going to completely sweep through the state as far as Naples, Tampa, and then go over, and it's going to relatively miss Miami. But I don't even understand how people are still in Florida considering that it is hurricane season and they're predicting for this to be a dire situation. Now, let me give a little bit of credit to Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis is absolutely got one of the hardest jobs on his hands as far as managing through the different things that Florida is going through. We know that Florida is directly in a line of sight of a lot of the different problems that happen as far as environmental. And he's also given a lot of credit. Let me give a little bit of credit to President Biden. I know you wasn't expecting it, but I'm objective enough to say that when Ron DeSantis made the announcement that President Biden actually is delivering on giving them everything that they need in order to prep for this hurricane, and then we can figure out whether or not they did what they were supposed to do afterwards, because we can criticize the federal government or the response afterwards, but right now this is not a time for people to argue about Republican versus Democrat. This is a humanitarian crisis, which is one of the reasons why we're so critical about the federal government. We're critical about how they give money over to Lebanon and how they give money over to Ukraine and how they give money over to these different environments, but they're not making sure that they take care of the American people first, because we should not be having a conversation about whether Congress can come back and ensure that FEMA is fully funded or the people get what they need. They should not be making decisions after Congress get off a break. Every last one of our legislators need to be on the ground and focused. And I'm not saying on the ground literally over there in North Carolina, but yes, you can go and visit afterwards, or on the ground literally with Florida when they're going through a hurricane. Like, it ain't that deep.
As Milton menaces Florida, millions are under mandatory evacuation orders.
This is the storm of the century.
Now the west coast of Florida is bracing for another life-threatening storm just 11 days after Helene. It's expected to make landfall in Tampa, and nearly half the city is being told to get out.
I can't put my officers' lives in danger to come out for somebody that didn't evacuate in the peak of the storm surge. So take the heat and evacuate now.
With a state of emergency declared in 51 counties, residents are once again assembling their emergency kits and gathering supplies, waiting in long lines for sandbagging and even longer lines for gas. CBS News was at Tampa General Hospital, the only level 1 trauma center in the area, as this wall was installed before Hurricane Helene. That barrier protected the hospital from 4 feet of flooding, but Milton could bring up to 15 feet.
We have layers of protections that we're going through, but it's still a little bit nerve-wracking to prepare for something like this with the current projection.
I'm Cristian Benavides in North Reddington Beach, a barrier island community where debris from Hurricane Helene still lines the street. Here, they're going from cleaning up to bracing for impact.
Across Pinellas County, communities are getting ready. In this St. Petersburg neighborhood, more than 80% of homes were flooded by Helene's historic storm surge.
What does your neighborhood look like right now?
It looks like a war zone. I mean, it's really sad. People have lost everything. You can see their memories sitting on the side of the road, and it's decimated.
Officials are worried debris, loose pieces of wood and metal, could clog storm drains and turn into dangerous projectiles when Milton makes landfall. Here in North Reddington Beach, entire homes were engulfed by the ocean during Hurricane Helene. Now residents like John Davis are worried about what's next.
Well, I hope it's not going to directly hit here. That's my hope.
But if it does?
If it does, I think it's going to have devastating effects.
Throughout the afternoon, sirens were going off here, letting people know that they need to get out now. Right here, we are under a hurricane warning, a storm surge warning, and a mandatory evacuation order.
But what I am saying is people need to be doing their jobs in the same way that, we work in information and technology, and you have a security breach or you have a problem or the system goes down. We got to be on call and we got to be on top of that, because you don't get a second chance to fix a situation for a potential customer, and you don't want there to ever be any problem that you could not have solved because the customer doesn't care about whether or not you have problems. The customer don't care about whether or not you get sleep. You get sleep all year long. You work a cushy job. But the reason that you make the big bucks and the reason why you're in leadership is that when things get off the rails, people need to depend on you to deliver for them. And again, that is the reason why we're so critical of this administration when we see the response that they have for illegal migrants and them advocating for that. But at the same time, they're not doing what they need to do for the American people. So again, I want to give Biden credit for participating in the preparation of what's going on down there in Florida with this upcoming hurricane with Milton. But I also want to make sure that I hold accountable Kamala Harris for trying to interfere in what Ron DeSantis is doing to make sure that she gets some visibility and get a campaign opportunity to give herself some clout for what's happening over in Florida. Ron DeSantis basically said, listen, she's not a part of the chain command. I got bigger problems to worry about than to be on her campaign trail and for her to say, yeah, I call Ron DeSantis. It's not about that. It's about the people. And so for her to even announce that, for her to even be having that conversation, for me, it's very difficult because I need her to be more focused on what's going on with the victims over in North Carolina and Helene. They still asking for help. They still saying that they can't get funded. They still saying that they having problems getting approved for the little $750 that y'all offer them in the first place. And so it's very difficult for me to sit here and look at Americans suffer while people overseas and over in Lebanon and Ukraine and Israel continue to get funded with our tax dollars. If it's my tax dollars, again, I'm going to say it for the last time, I want my tax dollars to go to helping Americans in a time of need and crisis. Nope, I don't want it as a form of socialism in which you overtaxing me in order to push your socialist agenda. But I do want my tax dollars, if I have to choose between Ukraine and Israel and Lebanon, I don't really care about what's going on over there more than I care about what's happening here in America. You know what I'm saying? So, and again, the Tampa mayor said, listen, you need to get up out of here. People is over there saying that they're going to ride it out. I seen some viral thing of some dude named Lieutenant Dan, and he over there saying that he going to stay in his boat. Cool. Just don't call, talk about, hey, what's going on with me? Because I know that it's a good social media story, but people need to get to safety. And this is not a game. This is not something that we need to play around with. The hurricane is something to take serious, and you don't get a second chance. This is not a respawn. This is not Call of Duty. You can't start over. People need to make sure that they take heed, go to these evacuation centers. And I was listening to some people on the Millionaire Morning Show today, and they were saying, well, Anton, there's some people that can't. Nope. They enabled Uber and Lyft to be able to come and pick people up. You don't have to go out of town. You can go to high ground in some of these evacuation centers. Ron DeSantis, and let me give him a round of applause again, is very much prepared and trying to warn these people, and all of the legislators, whether it's the mayors and the governors, are trying to warn people to get out of Dodge. And again, she said that if you are not getting out of Dodge, you will die if you are not in one of these zones that they are advising for you to evacuate. Why y'all still live in Florida? Maybe that's a conversation that we need to have later, but y'all got to get up out of there and do not put your life at risk trying to protect things. You can replace things, but you'll never be able to replace your relatives. I love you. I appreciate you. I hope that everybody is sending up prayers for the people over there in Florida and anybody that's affected by these hurricanes. I'm going to holler at y'all later. Peace.